I'm Vanessa Berry and I'm here today in Berkelouw Books in Paddington to talk to you a bit about my literary world, and I'd like to thank the Sydney Mechanics School of Arts for inviting me to speak a little bit about my writing and my book Mirror Sydney. So the Sydney Mechanics School of Arts is the oldest lending library in Australia, and it also houses the Thomas Keneally Centre, so it's kind of a rare opportunity to visit a writer's library and spend some time there with the books that have inspired them. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my book Mirror Sydney today, which has recently been published by Berkelouw Books, and just talk a little bit about the background to writing that book. So I write about Sydney's history, but through the lens of places that are perhaps lesser noticed, or stories of places that are a little bit hidden. So looking underneath the surface of places and investigating them. So the book started off as a blog, which I started in 2012 and called Mirror Sydney as well. And on the blog, I'd write about a post a month covering different places around the city, which I found interesting. So they could be things like anachronistic shops, the Marie Louise hair salon on Enmore Road, which is kind of a pink and mauve facade and sort of preserves a previous era of shops in the city, or something like the model harbour bridge at Warwick Farm, which is kind of an unusual large model of the bridge outside the Peter Warren automotive yard. So places like that which kind of stick out either because they're old or they're unusual. So then after a few years of making the blog, I made it into a book. So this book here, Mirror Sydney, which is a collection of essays that are based on the book, and also maps which I draw. So I have a background in visual arts as well and working visually. Here's an example of one of them. This is one that says underground places in the city. So it collects some of the stories of the city's tunnels and underground networks, which has been a very popular topic on the blog. People love the idea that there's the kind of hidden city that's just behind the city that we can walk around on the surface, or the city that we see every day. So they're the kind of stories that I've been looking for in Mirror Sydney on the 5 or 6 years that I've been doing it. So the book collects both the essays and the maps together, and aims to record something of the city's history, but also some of the myths and rumours and stories that exist about it as well. I've thought a lot about what a literary writer can bring to a city's history. So I'm not a trained historian, but I use historical stories in my work. But I think one of the strengths of writing about cities and places as a literary writer is that you can think about that element of imagination and memory in the city, as well as its more traditional stories or histories that people know quite well. You can bring in thoughts of sort of speculations about the city, or personal experiences or memories. So my background is in writing memoir. I've had 2 books published before Mirror Sydney, both of which were memoirs. But with this one, I decided to think about memory in terms of the city and try to write about memories as how they are presented within particular places around the city. So as well as working as a writer, I also teach writing, and one of the things that people often ask me is kind of tips or advice that I might have for writers, and I do a lecture occasionally about thinking like a writer, and one of the things I mention sort of right at the start is being curious about the world around you. I think that's essential for a writer, whether or not you write about places like I do or write about other topics. Having a sense of curiosity and having a keen sense of observation and wondering about the stories behind things, whether they be ideas or be about places. So I guess that's my one tip, is to engage your sense of curiosity and be a really good observer if you're interested in writing about cities or interested in writing about anything at all. So it's been a pleasure to talk to you today about Mirror Sydney and a little bit about my literary world. And if you're interested in reading Mirror Sydney, it's available at Berkelouw here in Paddington, and also available in the Sydney Mechanics School of Arts Library. Thank you.